Hey, Sunset Hill. I have a very special interview for you today. You might recognize this person from the hallways of Sunset Hill, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let him introduce himself.
Hey, Sunset Hill, Mr. Williams here. I don't know if any of you know this or not, but my dad actually is an artist. He went to the University of Hawaii and actually has an art degree from the University of Hawaii.
No way, Hawaii? That's so cool.
For those that didn't know it, Hawaii is pretty meaningful to me just because I grew up there. So we have a lot of my dad's art in the family and hanging in our houses. In fact, there are a lot of people that we used to be friends with in Hawaii that have art and they live in other places of the country as well.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So how did your father get into painting? How old was he when he started?
My dad started as an artist when he was actually in elementary, middle school age, and the story about him becoming first interested in art is rather interesting. He used to copy the cartoons in the Sunday newspaper, literally just try to replicate and imitate exactly what he was seeing in those cartoons. He and his dad did that together, kind of a little bit of a competition, and then it evolved into a competition between his older brother and himself. And for my dad, it just was something that continued into high school. He started drawing larger landscapes.
That's pretty cool that he started creating art at such a young age and that his family challenged him and encouraged him through it. What's his favorite medium or type of paint to use?
So watercolor, acrylic, which is like an oil-based paint, and pencil, I think, are three of the mediums that he most enjoys working with.
Wow. Hey, remember, Sunset Hill students, that you guys get to use watercolors too, and tempera paint sometimes, which is similar to acrylic paint, but it's water-based. So what inspires his artwork? In other words, what does his artwork focus on?
In terms of inspiration, when you see the artwork, I would say that every one of the photos that you see, with the exception of maybe two, were all done in Hawaii, where he was doing the most artwork when he was both a student and then when I was growing up. The piece of artwork that is Kailua Beach is a pretty iconic picture, or one that you will often recognize if you've been to Hawaii, because it's a famous beach. It's one that I grew up on playing in as a kid.
Wow, that's super interesting. I know landscapes and nature are huge inspirations for my own artwork because it's always changing and I think it's always beautiful. So are there any specific artists or people that inspired your father or his artwork?
I think one of my dad's biggest inspirations as an artist, something that encouraged him, or something that encouraged him, was both a college friend of his who was really good at watercolor painting, and then when he lived in Hawaii, a Chinese artist. He also spent considerable time with other artists painting together on weekends.
That's great. You know, it's really good to create art and to view art with other artists because it can inspire your own artwork and you can really learn a lot from other artists. Which painting of your father's is your favorite, Mr. Williams?
One of my favorite pieces actually is the Mission House which actually doesn't exist any longer in Hawaii. And I really like the old kind of plantation style corner store. And I think that one was done in some watercolor. But one of my really most favorite pieces of my dad is a picture of it's a watercolor that he did in college of some Japanese koi, which is like colorful Japanese fish. That's one of my all-time favorites because it really dates his work and what he's done, and I think he would say was one of his first, like, I feel really good about this piece of artwork. So I've always liked that one.
Wow, those 3 paintings are wonderful and so detailed. Is there anything interesting about your father's process in creating a painting?
One of the neat things about art, or watching my dad paint the artwork that he paints, is that it is all about layering the paint. In other words, he starts with one color on an entire canvas and then builds color upon it. So different hues or darks and lights will shine through, but he's always painting on top of something on top of a portrait or a piece of art. He always starts with one solid color and then we'll build upon it. So I never really knew that about an artist, or at least that's just what my dad does when he works through it.
Very cool. Yeah, layering is huge when you're painting with acrylics and sometimes with watercolor too. Now I know when I'm creating my artwork, there are definitely some things that challenge me that I need to work on, or things that I can improve upon. What about your father? Is there anything that challenges him when he's painting, or things he can always improve on?
My dad has always told me that one of the hardest things to do for him is painting people. And it takes a lot of practice to really get someone's face to look exactly the same or very close to it in a watercolor or using acrylic paint or even pencil. Although pencil, I think he would say, is a little easier because you can get a really fine pencil stroke. My dad always enjoyed the challenge of really trying to replicate as close to possible the subject that he was drawing, whether it was a landscape, a building, fruit, a canoe on a beach, or even just a picture of a really cool looking tree in a desert. Hope you enjoy looking at some of the artwork, and that if nothing else, you're inspired, because you could always start right now.
Wow, that was a super, super special interview, Mr. Williams. Thank you for taking the time to tell us about your father and all of his paintings. I was really excited to hear about it. So, right about now, we're going to show you guys a few more of his paintings. So, take a look. Thank you so much, Sunset Hill students, for joining us on this first artist interview. I hope you have a great week.